If you think 2025 will be for Nvidia just like 2024 was, I have a lot of surprising news for you. So 2025 will be nothing like this year. First of all, Nvidia has sold already all of its Blackwell GPUs for 2025. Yes, you cannot get any even if you order them right now. Second of all, instead of selling to the big companies, Nvidia will start selling to entire nations with their new sovereign AI projects. And third, there is a huge $1 trillion global infrastructure rebuild, and the surprising news, Nvidia will get almost every last dollar of this project. And of course, all of this will influence our valuation of Nvidia. Spoiler alert, this is not really what you're expecting. So the future is here, and Nvidia's plans for 2025 will blow your mind. Hey there, and welcome to the Market Monkeys channel. My name is Vadim, and today we're talking about Nvidia. So first of all, let's talk about 2025. In order to do that and understand kind of the scope of this year, let's compare it to what happened in the previous year. So Hopper family of GPUs, this thing which brought Nvidia all the success in 2023 and 2024. So the overall Hopper family sold for about between $125 and $130 billion. And of course, this is a huge number, but now we're talking about Blackwell GPUs, which are starting to sell right now. And Blackwell GPUs are expected to bring about $210 billion in 2025 alone. So we are talking about the growth of something like 80%, but comparing 2025 to 2023 and 2024 combined. Now, to understand where this money is going to come from, we need to talk about hyperscalers. Hyperscalers are these huge tech companies, and they are the main customers of Nvidia. So we're talking about Meta, Google or Alphabet, Microsoft, and Amazon. And these companies right now is in the race to establish themselves as the dominant force in AI. Now, the goal for these companies here is not to overtake the competition and to take the whole AI sector. AI sector is too big for one company to take overall. The goal here is not to become just irrelevant with your technology. Now, you may ask, how can such a big company become irrelevant with its technology? And the answer is simple. Just look at what happened to Intel recently and how its stock is falling, CEO is resigning, and all of the troubles there. Now, none of these big companies want to miss this whole AI train, and all of them are investing hugely in creating new data centers, buying new servers, and of course, buying new GPUs from Nvidia. If you find this information interesting or valuable, like this video, subscribe to our channel. And by the way, we have a membership on our channel. So if you would like to become a member of Market Monkeys Club, go ahead and join us. All of these investments are called capital expenditures, or CAPEX for short. Now, the beauty of this whole thing is when these companies are telling that they are investing in AI, or their CAPEX investment in AI will be X, something like 80-85% of this investment is usually goes to Nvidia. Now, we don't have exact numbers because companies usually do not disclose exactly who their customers or who their suppliers are in their reports, but based on some news and the order size, we can do some estimations. And these contracts are huge. Let's take a look at just the recent news. So Microsoft has ordered between 150K and 200K of Blackwell GPUs units in Q4 2024, and this demand is expected to grow to 500,000 in Q1 2025. Alphabet ordered about 400,000 GPUs worth around $10 billion, so you can already understand that Microsoft order is about between 12-13 billion dollars. Meta ordered 360,000 GPUs worth around $8 billion, and Oracle, surprisingly, for their Oracle Cloud, has ordered 131,000 GPUs, estimated at around $2.5 billion. Now, a lot of people, a lot of analysts talk about AI being a bubble. And their kind of most convincing argument is that we see a lot of investment, a lot of capital expenditure, but we don't see any feedback or any monetization. So we're investing a lot of money, but not getting anything back. Now, This is simply not true, and I'm not talking about some estimations or some models that project revenues in the future. I'm talking about the feedback from the CEOs of these companies. Now, let's take a look at what CEO of Amazon said during Q3 2024 earnings call. He said that Amazon has more demand than we could fulfill if we just had more capacity today, and that pretty much everyone today has less capacity than they have demand for, and it's really primarily chips that are area where companies could use more supply. So basically what he's saying is that they could provide more services with AWS. The demand is there. The problem with the supply, they need more supply, more investment. He continued and said that Amazon is growing rapidly in AI, but he believes the rate of growth there has a chance to improve over time as we have bigger and bigger capacity. And he's not talking about AWS improving, he's talking about the rate of growth of AWS and the services improving. So we're talking about possibility for actually accelerating growth. Pretty much the same thing was said by Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella. He said that monetization from these AI investments continues to grow, and we're excited that only 2.5 years in our AI business. Now, listen carefully here, because what he's saying, 2.5 years in our AI business is on track to surpass $10 billion of annual revenue run rate in Q2. This will be the fastest business in our history to reach this milestone. So AI is not only getting monetized, it's getting monetized very quickly for these companies. And now we can understand why these companies are trying so hard to invest so much money so fast and to buy Nvidia stock, and they already bought everything for 2025. Right now, orders are beginning to get in for 2026. But if you're not convinced with these huge investments from tech giants, there are a bunch of new customers for Nvidia. And right now we're not talking about companies, we're talking about entire nations. And this is the sovereign AI project which Nvidia is running. And the gist of this project is quite simple. If you want your AI services to be ran on data that, for example, relates to this country and private to the citizens of this country, you don't want any other companies from different country or any public cloud company to run these services for you. So we're talking about, for example, social security numbers and medical records and criminal records, data like this. You want all of these calculations and the results of these calculations to be somewhere in the borders of your country. The use case for this scenario and how these projects are running is quite simple to all of the countries. You hire a local company, for example, in India they hired Indosat, in Singapore the government hired Singtel, and this company is creating something which is called the AI factories. These factories would be placed geographically within the borders of the country, and they pinky promise that the data out of these factories will not go anywhere else. Now, Nvidia has already sold sovereign AI systems to India, Japan, France, Italy, New Zealand, and Switzerland. Last week we got some news that Nvidia signed new contract with governments of Thailand and Vietnam, and in general, Jensen Huang described sovereign AI as a new form of national infrastructure, just like a healthcare or transportation. This is a new revenue stream for Nvidia, of course. Remember, in the previous section, we talked about a bunch of tech companies competing with each other in order not to fall behind on the technology. So now Nvidia has entire nations which are competing with each other for the same reason. Now, the last thing before valuation of the stock, this huge $1 trillion global AI infrastructure project. Now, as I said before, these hyperscalers have invested around $240 billion in CAPEX to kind of rebuild the data centers, invest in servers, invest in AI. It is expected that these companies will invest something around $270 billion next year. So a lot of critics are asking when the digestion point will come, when these companies kind of will stop investing and Nvidia's revenues will fall sharply. CEO of Nvidia, Jensen Huang, addressed this issue and said that he is expecting that at least $1 trillion will be invested in the global infrastructure until we come to a digestion point when everyone will kind of stop for a second and see, okay, what we're going to do with all of this infrastructure now. Okay, now let's get to the valuation of Nvidia. We had a lot of videos where we valued Nvidia and we have our own even playlist of NVIDIA videos on this channel. Now, if you go to our videos, if you go to playlist there, you will see a playlist with NVIDIA videos. When we gave our own price target for NVIDIA, we gave price target of $161 per share by the end of Q4. The end of Q4 for NVIDIA is somewhere in February, so we still have time to reach that. We have expected NVIDIA's stock price to be around 145 this year, and we have already reached that. So in this video, I wanted to do something else. I wanted to compare NVIDIA to its peers. And I'm not talking about AMD or Intel because, like, what's the point? Now, these companies have fallen behind so badly, and I don't see any points of comparing NVIDIA to AMD, Intel, Broadcom, or companies like that. Instead of that, I want to compare NVIDIA to Mag 7 companies. Now, these are kind of 7 huge tech companies which are all the buzz this year. Before I show you the numbers, I wanted to kind of talk about what we're going to address in this valuation. Now, we are going to address a couple of things. First of all, we of course cannot compare the stock prices because it makes no sense. And I don't want to compare PE ratios, for example, because again, PE ratio does not account growth. And we're talking about very, very different companies. So you cannot compare NVIDIA to Tesla, for example, because Tesla is not growing and NVIDIA is growing very much. Instead of that, I want to use PEG ratio. So basically PE divided by growth. We will use PEG ratio. I want to look at the gross margin of the company. So basically, what's the percentage of money the company gets after cost of sales. This indicates how well the company controls its pricing and how well the company can scale its operations. And one last thing I want to look at is the free cash flow margin. Basically, it's the percentage of money from revenues the company is getting as cash. Now, if we're looking at PEG ratio, and I will be looking at the forward PEG ratio and not the trailing 12 month because there is no point talking about that. The ridiculous company in this list is of course Tesla, which is valued at 19 PEG, which is insanely overvalued. The interesting thing here is NVIDIA is the most undervalued stock among all Mag 7. Only Google is kind of close, but this is insane. Everyone is saying that NVIDIA is grossly overvalued, and you can see that it's very much undervalued relative to other stocks in this category. Now, if we look at the gross profit, you can see that these are amazing companies. These are companies with an amazing gross profits. Well, and Tesla, of course, with 18%. But companies that stand out is Meta with 81% gross profit and Nvidia with 75%. So these are companies which really control their pricing and really control the scalability of this operation. Of course, the fact that these are software companies also helps. And the last thing is the free cash flow margin. So free cash flow margin, you can see that Nvidia is number one here. 36% free cash flow margin. They are getting 36 cents in cash for every $1 in sales which they are making. And this is amazing. Like, the quality of the company, the quality of management is nothing we have ever seen, and definitely nothing we are seeing today. So we are investors in Nvidia, of course, and big believers in the company. I think this company will dominate the whole AI sector and probably the whole tech sector for a few years to come at least. Now, if you haven't invested in Nvidia yet, I strongly recommend you to go look at the company, do your due diligence, and if you have any questions left, ask them in the comment section. We will try to answer all of you. If you found this information valuable or interesting, press the like button, subscribe to our channel, and we will see you in the next video. Thank you for your time. Take care.